right, let's do it.
All right, no problem.
Thank you so much for opening your doors, Coach Brad Carlton at MTK, aka Neutral Corner Boxing. Is that fair to say?
Bienvenido, come on in.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So one of the reasons I wanted to get a hold of you and I wanted to speak to you was because of the landscape here in Arizona. How much has it changed from when you were growing up, when you started getting your feet wet with the sport of boxing, to now? It seems like there's a bit of a resurgence happening right now as far as professional fighting here in Arizona.
That's something that you want to happen. That's something that I would love to see happen. Personally, I haven't felt that yet, you know, as far as like who's out there, you know, really doing something for Arizona, you know, for Tucson specifically, because we've had some great history and tradition of boxing here, but some great boxers that I know about, you know, come from here. I had a chance to work with when they were young, like Oscar Valdez, worked with him, and it was really great. He was a really smart little kid, you know, and I have to say that they're a little different now, the young people, that when I worked with him, and that was 20 years ago plus, so or about 20 years ago probably, and they're different. And COVID is, for the little ones, COVID has changed.
Oh yeah.
Things quite a bit, you know, as far as the attitudes that I
It took an effect on them.
Yeah, like before, you used to be able to go up and, you know, hey, how you doing? Shake their hand or something. But then for a little while, they were like, you try to approach them, you know, they were just really skittish for a while. We're coming out of it.
You were just from the bit of a background that I've been trying to dig in on you, you were a aspiring stuntman turned boxer, and you went to boxing at a late age, right?
Yeah,
28, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
So what happened with the stunt career?
Well, boxing actually happened to the stunt career, and it started with when I was a kid. I was jumping off of buildings, and you know, I learned how to tumble into gymnastics classes and stuff so that I could blow me off the building and I'll flip, you know, or whatever. And just all the time, you know, getting really dirty with diving off the hills. Anything I could do to train to be a stuntman. And including, I took gymnastics starting in 4th grade. I did till ninth grade, just so I could learn to do the stunts better.
Was it based on movies, or you ended up running into a stuntman, somebody that was in the field, and you were like, I gotta do that?
You know, I think it was a lot of influence came from a stupid TV show, you know, about a stuntman that, you know, I thought all the stunts were cool, and I really didn't care about my safety, you know, and I was willing to climb on anything and jump off anything, you know, sometimes to my detriment, but I never really got hurt. The only people got hurt were my friends who tried to follow me. And that's just never a good idea. If your friend does something, just say.
Were you always involved with martial arts and combat sports and boxing, or?
Not necessarily, a little bit, because I did take some karate when I was a kid, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, along with the, you know, at the YMCA, that was where I was taking gymnastics regularly. But it wasn't a main focus, but my interest in martial arts was a little bit more familiar to my life. My experience growing up with being a white kid in an all Hispanic neighborhood, you know, where I fit in fine, that's my culture, where I grew up, you know. But, you know, there were always issues with that. I got one instance, I did get stabbed, you know, over the issue. But, you know, I'm just in the neighborhood, that's it. But once I got kind of a little bit addicted to bully bashing, you know, I kind of figured I could do something about it. I ended up kind of getting addicted a little bit to that violence, you know, which is negative thing in my life, you know, that I wish never would have occurred, but it happened. I got it, you know, I got to where I thought that I should be able to do things about people I thought were ignorant, and I used my hands. And I found out that I could do that. And then my whole life, when I was 8 years old, my mom took me to the boxing gym over by the rodeo grounds, Fiesta de los Vaqueros. And
what was the name of the boxing gym?
Gosh, I can't remember exactly.
Are they still there or no?
It's the building's still there. It's like a half dome, and it's right next to the thing. But it was a PAL at the time, a police athletic league sponsored, and my friend's dad was a sheriff, and he took us there. And I was 8 years old. I fell in love right away. I went home and I told my mom, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to go boxing here. I'm going to do that now." And she said, "I'm not letting you go. And I said, why not? She said, because we're not going to create a monster. You're already getting in fist fights at school. I'm 8 years old. You know what I mean? It's like, you're a little kid.
Yeah.
But she sees me as violent, and she didn't want me to do that. And I think it would have changed things that down the road.
It might have given you maybe discipline.
A lot, yeah. It would have taught me a respecter. I would have been a better respecter of persons as far as my own ability to injure somebody, you know? And because I didn't learn that properly, I did injure somebody in junior high. I went to college junior high, and I was in special need class just because of my behavior and getting into fights every day. I couldn't go to lunch with the other kids. I got kicked off the bus all the time. You know, first day of school for jumping out of the window and chasing somebody and fighting with them. So it's just something that I always knew I could do. I was willing to do when other people are not really, wanting.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was actually watching a recent interview of Danny Romero. I don't know if you remember Danny Romero from Albuquerque.
For sure.
And he was talking about people that would dare him outside of the ring, not knowing that he was a boxer, or wanting to measure, wanting to test themselves against a boxer.
Right.
And because they would see him shorter stature, smaller guy. And he was like, people don't realize that when you train, you learn how to take hits. You learn, this is what we've been doing for years.
Right.
Most people, the common man, will get hit and startled.
Right.
And that's kind of goes a long way with along lines of what you're mentioning. At 8 years old, the discipline, knowing of maybe I'm not going to be fighting anymore because now you know what you could do.
Had I really known,
the discipline
instead of just going off of ignorance and the fact that even the tough kids are bluffing a lot. I noticed.
Yeah.
And when I noticed that, and I noticed I wasn't, I was like, I'd be walking by, hey, what's up, fool, what are you looking at? I'd be like, I've been waiting for you to notice, let's go. I wanted to, I wanted to challenge myself too, and then violence is no good. Somebody actually got it maimed and injured, where maimed means lost a permanent, a part of themselves, what I mean? And it's both our fault, but if it wouldn't have happened, I'd be so happy, that never would have happened. Some violence didn't happen. But the respect of a person comes with knowing how to defend yourself properly. Because once I learned how to box, correctly, I realized even more that you can't punish somebody for being ignorant or because you don't like them or they're drunk or whatever, because the fear you should have is suffering a fool's consequence. Yeah. So I used to want to bash the fool, but when I'm bashing him, I'm gaining his foolishness and his consequence.
At 28, when you start guiding your life towards boxing, getting involved with boxing, what year, give or take, are we talking about here?
I'm 54 years old.
This is like mid-90s?
54 years old now. Late night, I'd say you're probably 98, something like that.
And the landscape, the boxing landscape in Tucson and overall in Arizona back then dominated. We were talking a little bit off the mic. Michael Carvajal left his mark in the state of Arizona.
We did have local promoters too, or some people that wanted to put on more amateur boxing shows. I used to do it. I got some things up there, on the wall, where back from 2001, where right away I got involved in, coaching and promoting amateur boxing, getting involved with bringing up kids and stuff too, because it's just something I should have always maybe done, and I just discovered at that time that, because I had a Tough Man show coming, and it was like a commercial in the middle of the night. I was watching like Friday Night Fights or something, and I was I think it was Vasily Girov and James Toney, something like that. I don't know, one of them fights like that. They're really great from that era. And I was on my knees, like going, yeah, come on, in front of the TV, and I saw a commercial come on for a Tough Man show and locally promoted. So I was like, went and woke my wife up, hey, I'm gonna.
You're all amped up. You're like,
yeah,
I'm
gonna go box in this boxing tournament. She's like, yeah, whatever, that's cool. Yeah. Go back to sleep, and then the next weekend I showed up, and I did real good. I fought a guy, and I did win. First fight, I did win. I was in shock. But what happened was I couldn't see him with the headgear they just randomly put on my head.
Yeah.
And he had some practice, but if it was a fight, I beat it. I broke the orbital bone, which is surprising to me. you know, knowing what I know now, you know, just a lot of it went bad, but really well at the same time.
Yeah, Tough Man was wild because they would just pick anybody off the crowd, right? And you have construction workers against plumbers, police officers.
Except there's always a ringer, guys.
There's always a ringer. Yeah.
Just know, there's always a ringer. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you might think
right.
they're not, but there is. And you know, and maybe
Butterbean.
There's always, just don't fool yourself.
Yeah.
All right, but it's fun event, you know, and it was fun, and I started doing that, and I got a trainer when I was invited back. Because first person I met out of the ring though after I lost was Don Fry, who's a local person.
UFC champ.
Yeah, and at the time he was actually, and Gut was out to hear him, but he was in between fights, and he was there watching me fight, and I was exhausted, and first thing I came out of the ring is the person I saw was him. He's like, Carlton, oh, you son of a bitch, you get that guy corner post. You know, we don't know what they're talking about. You not winning and shit. And then he signed my wife's friend's tits. Yeah, and I went in the bathroom and threw up. You know, so it was just like the greatest day ever.
Random.
Yeah, I really loved it. You know, and they invited me back. So I said I need some training though. You know, and they hooked me up with my coach that I had for like 6 months, but I'll tell you, he's my father in this. Right there, Ronnie Wooten, love him. Still talk to him this day. He lives in Atlanta, Georgia. Still talk to him. He's like,
is he still involved in boxing, training, and so forth?
You know what? He's now in his late 70s, 80s now, and I don't think he's been doing that lately, because he hasn't mentioned it, you know, but they've been going through some issues with the flooding and things that happened in that hurricane last year. A big log fell on the house. So it's a little tough time for him, but he's tough, and he's to me the person that probably inspired me the most to how I coach, you know, and how I love boxing and love helping boxing.
And you ended up guiding yourself more towards the technical aspect of training and boxing, more so than the physical, or you focus so much on technique.
And the reason I would tell you that I did is because I found out kind of that there were 3 types of coaches that I observed when I started in the sport. And I saw there's a motivator guy, the one that could get you hyped up and ready, make you think you can conquer stuff, and he's always cheering you on, and that's a great kind of coach. And then there was the technical coach, so the one that knew the actual, you know, performance of different ways to perform the sport and use technically. And then there was the strategist who told you how to apply those techniques to people. And my coach was a strategist / motivator. He was very motivating to me. When I was told, when he left, actually, I went to Aslan boxing gym, which right off the bat, you know, Hispanic gym.
Yeah.
And they're great people. The Agradano's were great people. If they're still over there, Netta, hey, what's up? But when I talked to the guy who was there, he said, "How old are you?" I said, "Well, I need a coach, you know, but I'm 28. I'm about to turn 29. I've been boxing for like maybe 6 months, and you know, and I need help." He goes, looks at me like that, and he goes, "You're too old and too white to learn how to box. Forget about it." And I told him, you know what? I actually understand what you're saying, but I've been enjoying it, and they keep inviting me back because I've already had several fights, and I'm doing fine. You know, I'm enjoying it, but I know I need to learn, so maybe I'll go somewhere else maybe. And I ended up going to Rogers West Side Youth Center, which is in the Barrio Anita neighborhood, otherwise known sometimes as Barrio Sabaco.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went into there, and I asked Roger Woods, who's a local guy, been around forever, kind of mentored me as a coach and stuff. Appreciate him always, forever, and respect to that. And he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to train. I need help." He's like, "Give 4 rounds of my pro, maybe, and we'll let you stay." I'm like, "Where's he at?" He goes, "Big black guy in the ring over there." I look, it was a guy, Charles Davis, if you know anything about local Tucson boxing.
So he was a pro.
Yeah,
he
was.
I think his record ended up maybe like around 500, but he ended up fighting,
he started
I think,
off real good.
Vermaine Stavern,
Yeah.
Chas Witherspoon, I believe. Yeah.
And we actually went, and I'm going to say it, he could have beat the guy. We went to Puerto Rico and fought this guy, Bisbol. over there. His name was like baseball. I swear. Giant guy, you know. And he went over there and he just cruised the rounds. And I actually got to corner with Don Kahn, I think his name is, was the coach for Alexis Arguello.
Wow.
And we're cornering together. And he goes, hey, what's your guy doing? And I said, you know what he's doing? I go, he's being a, you know, opponent right now. You know, and he's like, well, you can win. I go, I know, I've been telling him. But he doesn't want to do it. You know, and sometimes I think that there's guys, they want that check one more time, but they don't really want to win because if they do, they have to do something else. You know, and at the next level maybe or whatever. But he was a good fighter. You know, he was quick. And when I ran into him in that first day in the gym, he was just fresh, you know, on his run. And so left-handed, 215 pounds, you know, at the time. And Lightning, you're mentioning Charles Lightning Davis, and I went 4 rounds. So they respected that, and from there, the rest is history, as they say.
And Aslan Gym, going back to them, they're pushing you off as 28, being too old, because to them, it looked like the perspective was guiding you towards a pro career, like you're already too late, too old.
Yeah.
And Tough Man at that time, and those competitions were seen like a sideshow, right?
Yeah.
They weren't taken serious, but now look at bare knuckle boxing.
Well, the same guy who was promoting it did what they used to call like ringmasters or something, I think, which was a midget wrestling / boxing stuff. So it's not like it was, you know, Olympic boxing.
Yeah, nothing too serious.
And there were some great boxers. Unfortunately, one that was an Olympic boxer that went to the Olympics, and he didn't make it because of the accident we had in the 70s with the airplane or the terrorism or something I know happened to him bad. And so there's that history of Tucson boxing. But, you know, it's just been, I think, the nostalgia brings me straight to having Austin Trout, Ciju Shabazz, you know, these guys coming from New Mexico and fighting our kids from our gym. We had like Oscar Valdez and had Michael Martinez, you know, just a bunch of cool kids. And Tomas Valdez, who's Oscar's cousin, who I really enjoyed him. He never said a damn word, but maybe I like that. I don't know. He just, that's it, you know. And but he says more to me now that he's grown up.
Have you, from that early age, when you started cornering, you started getting involved, you knew that you were in an older age to where you couldn't become a pro at that time? Maybe you could have, I guess, but
I made some feeble attempts because I had, when I started boxing, I can explain too that I had really poor vision. So I'd been wearing glasses my whole life. I had really bad vision. I wouldn't be able to really, you know, just blurry face from this distance. But I wanted to improve my vision, you know, in boxing and everything, so in life. So I had a surgery at the time, was experimental RK surgery, and they did a surgery on my eyes, which when they look for the little scope in your eye before you fight, as a professional boxer, you have to get clearance by the ophthalmologist, and they just, every time they saw it, and said,
you wouldn't pass the medical clearance.
Yeah, they said it's too large of an incision. I think they do it better now, but he said that the incision size, what they could see, was just a little too much, and they assumed my eye could rupture, I guess, you know. So and the safety of that, they wouldn't license me.
And you knew you wanted to stay involved with boxing. You found your calling more towards cornering and teaching the sport and learning the sport.
It happened really fast. One thing it started with was the little kids like Oscar and them, and Oscar always performed real well, but some of the other kids, I wondered why. You know, they're doing all right, it looks like, but they're not winning. And these other kids are showing up with these styles that are beating them.
Yeah.
So when I went, I watched every match. Like Gene Lewis will have 1,000 matches, you know. I watched every match of the tournament, you know, and trying to study and learn what wins in boxing and what's the boxer that wins does. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
And it became pretty consistent to come down to a lot of different aspects of style and maneuvering that goes along with wherever they're from. You know what I mean? Like Texas boxers, you gotta, you know, you can say, hey, I maybe could spot them and say, that guy's from Texas.
Yeah.
You know, or Cincinnati, you know, Cincy guys are, you know, they're a little flashy and stuff, and they're good, tough. I mean, there's still a bunch of places that were California and New Mexico where guys that used to come and give us a lot of
the Philly guys
challenges.
defense, right? And they they all took up on that.
Yep, and I go, well, you know, what are we missing? Are we missing something in the knowledge here? And honestly, I asked around quite a bit, but I didn't get a whole lot of answers. So I looked as far as and wide as I could, and I came across a coach named Kenny Weldon from Texas. And he worked with Evander Holyfield, made a lot of Golden Gloves and amateur champions and pros, world champions. And he said something that interested me a lot. He said boxing is the art of hitting another human being from the furthest distance away possible, maximizing one's leverage, expose the least amount of your body, and not get hit, while getting in position to punch again. And I go, okay, well that's a true definition. Now I can say that's what boxing is. Anything else, slugging, brawling, running, holding, whatever else you're doing is not that, but that's the art of boxing. So as we look at it, I decided, can we technically do that? And if we can't, how do we get rough with the person who can? And that's where the technical hits the strategy.
Yeah.
And the motivator is find the people that inspire them, that they have the gifts, to do these things. When you find them and they become, good enough to let's start talking about this, you can say, you've been given what you need. You just have to go ahead and thank God for that. When I pray for my boxers, I always pray that they just recognize themselves.
You're going on 3 decades now with boxing. You start seeing trends in young athletes and boxers as far as mindset trends.
Right now we got Broccoli's versus Edgar's.
Yeah. you got.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You got.
I made myself laugh. There you go.
Yeah, no, that was good. You got what I was getting at is corner wise. That was good. Corner wise, you see the fighters that will leave the corner. You communicate with them between rounds. They get back into the fight, and a lot of times they just get in that zone and don't apply what you guys just talked about.
Exactly. Let me give you a solid example right now. I'm in the ring on the same day with Oscar and another kid I mentioned, Michael Martinez. Right? And they're little friends and stuff, everything. And we're going all the time together. But Oscar, I remember that day, and I see him sitting on the stool now or talking. He looked like the same little 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid. I remember, but he was so mature in the way that he thought about the match, how it was going. Was he ahead? Was he not? What should we do? He looked to people for advice, even though if he was handling it fine himself, he still wanted to know what the word was, and it was really a smart boxer, very determined to figure it out, and always did. So. That was something. And then on the same day, I got Michael Martinez in the corner, in the same corner, and I'm working the corner. I'm telling him what we need to do. We're both boxing some badass kids from New Mexico, and he's in a rough one too. And he goes, hey coach. I go, what? He goes, kitchen's on fire. I turn and look, and the whole kitchen in the bar, restaurant, the Wildcat House, was held there. The whole thing was a big giant grease fire from one end to the other. And I was like, well, that's the fire you need to get in your ass right now to get out there and beat this kid. You're not gonna let him beat you. And he's like, all right, let's go. And then while they were fighting the fire, he went over there and beat that kid, and it was a lot of fun. But, I'm not gonna put down nobody, but I have to say, it's been a little while since I've had that kind of reaction. The last one being probably about, say, 5 years ago. I had a kid that's very withdrawn as a person. I had trouble even looking you in the eye, but he's a pretty good little boxer. But sometimes hard to communicate with him to see how he's feeling about everything. But he's at the match, and he said he wanted to box, and now he's up there, and he looks totally like he's quitting on himself when he could be beating the guy. I already know. So I tell him, I'm like, go in your mind, find the guy who told us somewhere that you wanted to do this, and get him up off the stool and go kick that guy's ass, because you can do it. You're acting like you don't want to be here. And that's always going to lose you matches. It's always going to lose you confidence if you want to really be a boxer. So sometimes it takes psychological warfare to go deep into kids and even adults. I'll tell you how things are different with adults in a minute. But, you know, you got to deal with them in the way they come, you know what I mean? And it's psychological warfare. That's it. You got to trick them into
You think
doing
that's the biggest hindrance in boxers, that why they stop practicing the sport, why they check out from the sport? Because you'll see people that come in and young athletes and they're like, I want to be a world champion. I want to be. Is the psychological the biggest issue that most of them encounter, or is it outside influences?
Honestly,
is it means? Is it lack of talent? What is it? What have you been able to identify through the years?
Yeah, well, I hate to keep bringing up Oscar, but let's put it this way. In another story, he comes every time he comes to compete, even when he moved to Nogales, he'd come down to compete with our team, and we'd go up together to Phoenix or wherever, or Mexicali and fight, whatever. And he used to wear this ridiculous, is what everybody said. I thought it was just ugly, but ridiculous Phoenix Suns. Like, it's not gold, it's not brown, it's like this ugly Phoenix Sun color with this terrible jersey thing, but it was nice, you know, like as far as new looking. But he wore it every time, and every time they would go, Oscar, you stupid for that, you know, and they'd clown him a lot. And one time when we were alone, I was like, hey, Oscar, why do you wear that jersey every time, even though they clown you every time? He goes, Coach, because this shirt makes me feel like a professional athlete, and that's what I'm going to be, and a champion and everything. So this was from the championship. I'm going to be a champion, and this is why I wear it. And I told him respect for that. You know what I mean? And so
that's cool.
You know, maybe your kid may say it or not, you know, something like that. But sometimes you can believe him. You know, I mean, I really did believe him based on how he acted when he was in the ring. And how even with family problems, him and his dad were always focused on getting him to the ring. And to this day, he's like that. But again, it's a different generation. So now I have another generation. I have a kid. He's a troubled kid. I get him into the probation, brings him to me with the ankle thing on. Asked me, you know, is he savable? And I said, let me have him for a minute. And then I realized, yeah, he is. He just didn't have any much male influence, you know, in his life, and involved in with no daddings and stuff like that, acting stupid. And he was in some serious trouble, and he was 16 years old. And I said, well, first thing, you take the thing off his leg, and I can work with him. I worked with him for a while. She said, you know, we'll check on him, and you need to hit some benchmarks. And he did, you know, he did everything. And I get this kid, and he's really a tough situation, you know, but he's doing it right. Now we get up all the way to pro fighting. And he's really good. He's super, super talented, but he's just, you know, even to this day, it's hard to get through some of his mentalities. Yeah. You know, it's just a different time, era of thinking. You know, he worries a lot more than other boxers worry about. They worry about all kind of other things that I mean, not that I'm anybody for great focus, but these kids are focused. You know?
This journey of meeting boxers and trainers that I've been on, I've been able to see where young boxers that are starting to find their stride, some, not all, obviously just a couple anomalies, they're starting to find their stride. They get a few wins under their belt, and they have these big fan bases already. And it's in their mind that they're superstars already when they're barely starting to scratch the surface. And that ends up catching them into the wrong footsteps. They end up, the partying happens, they get a little money, and now their whole career gets destroyed instead of having stayed focused and having capitalized on the successes.
It does. I wouldn't blame the money and success for anybody fucking up. But I'll tell you, one of the things, you know, other things happen, like growing up. You know, they need jobs. They need, you know, a girlfriend starts sitting in the seat next to them, and the car doesn't go to the gym anymore. You know, I mean, there's just, it's one of those kind of deals. And now in modern times, too, it used to be when I started as a carpenter, they'd tell you, you know, don't do that, or you know, you stupid fuck, you know, whatever. I mean, and I don't go for that. But at the same time, you learn quick to respect the boundaries on the job site with other people and safety and issues as men. And in this day and age, if you tell anybody anything, they get all bent out of shape, you know, and don't talk to my kid like this and that. you know, and I've got 12 of them on the ground at once. I'm just saying, and with all the love in the world, you know, but they need help, you know, to understand and be respecters of persons, just like I did, you know, and I didn't, maybe the Latchkey program didn't quite get to me.
Just in the last few minutes, the deeper we dive into this, it's all leading back to the psychology,
It
to
is.
the mindset.
It's a psychological sport. It's boxing, 99% mental, you know, 1% physical. But you need 1,000 of the 1%. Because the other guy maybe is mentally adapted and strong as you, or trouble.
Somebody shows up here wanting to partake in the sport, limited abilities. Can you work with them?
I love working with them, actually.
Limited means?
My price is the lowest in town, and I actually, during the day, I got a side job, which if I wanted to do it different, I could. I could be making a lot more money, I could be in a bigger place, be doing a lot more things with it, but instead I'm willing to go on the back of a garbage truck, right on the back, jump off, throw 4 to 6 tons of garbage a day off the back of the truck, and then come in here and open my gym and do it the way I want to.
You got a young kid with
which means affordable for people, you know. It's
that you're available, your doors are open, and it's just a matter of them wanting to pursue the journey.
Yeah.
Kids involved in gangs or wrong crowds outside of the boxing gym in their personal lives. Can you work with them?
I do.
It goes back to the mindset,
sure,
right?
I do that because I was a terrible young person. I'm just going to say it like that. I mean, I was very confused about what I should be doing, and influences were there, but mainly just my own problem self, you know, that I had to fight through and get over. And because I went through that, and you know, so I know, coming from the lowest part, you know, of human potential, I would say, is that I was right now I'd say I'm a fail less, not a failure, but a fail less than I should have been in life, because of the fact I fight so hard not to fail, you know. But it's natural to you know, to some people that have tough times and to grow up with these hard lessons. And I'm willing to accept them. People share my experience with them to see if I could be somebody that people can respect, and certainly they can, because most of the time when I get a bad kid, they're not what I call a true criminal. Okay, and a true criminal, if you've ever been involved in criminal activity, true criminal activity, then you would know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, God bless you. I'm glad for you. And, you know, violence or anything like that is something we shouldn't be having to experience.
Yeah, and you talk a little bit about, you mentioned about new generations. A lot of it has to do with the culture, right? A lot of it, one of the big issues that I seem to encounter a lot is a common trend being introspection, the lack of introspection. No one's willing to look in the mirror and admit that they're wrong. It's always everybody else's fault, pointing fingers, and then so that goes into
now
being able to find yourself.
Chat GPT are not going to help with that, because all it does is blow smoke up people's ass. And that's something that, to be a good boxing coach, the valuable one is to be honest about it. Number one is that professional, let me just tell the boxing community, as much as I can, you know, respect to everybody's knowledge, that professional boxing should be reserved for the very best talent you have. If a person wants to box professionally and they're not at that level, they don't have credentials, maybe haven't won national championships or not known through their amateur boxing, it's a tough road. I mean, it's going to put you in the meat market. You're going to be fed to elite boxers, and I would say that if you're going to go that route, just be that good. That's the only thing. You got to be better than that other guy.
You got to dedicate yourself.
There's 1,000 ways to beat that guy. All of them include being better than that guy. So that's something that wins fights, because if they're really slick boxers, I just rough them up. And if they're not as slick as I am, then I box them up. And it's just part of the way it kind of goes in this sport. You know, and the one who gets his job done at the time is hopefully the winner, you know. So I like to knock, you know, one punch knockouts, you know.
Get the crowd going.
Yeah, they always, when I would fight, they close their eyes like that, they cover up and look to the fingers. I like scream, women screaming. I like that. I like to entertain.
So
For me, it's an entertainment. If you're not willing to entertain, and you just want to win, like I told my one of my other coaches, I go, this is entertainment. I go, life isn't all, it doesn't include assholes and rainbows. It's just like, and he's like, both those things exist.
Yeah.
Well, I meant maybe leprechauns and something, I don't know. But it's a tough sport. Don't get it twisted. I mean, there's people who have been doing this since they're real little, or they just have that. And if you have it, it's great. But just watch out. For some motivators are a little motivating when they could be more realistic. And sometimes you gotta. But more often than not, I will say that a person is going to perform lower than their potential if they have it at all. And you can take somebody who seems to have very little, which I had a boxer that was struggling. He had experience. I watched him as a teenager, a young, 12 or 13 through to about 17, 18. I think it was 17 they brought him to me. And I just watched him get, beat a lot when the competition stepped up. Every tournament, he'd be in the bracket, and every tournament, he'd go out, before he wins it. And they brought him to me at one point, and they asked me, we won a national championship. Can you help him get it? And I was like, well, if he's willing to try, I'm willing to try. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but I would definitely make it a goal of mine if it's his, and I'll see what I can do. And we started, and it took 6 years, but we did it. He became national champion. Nice. And he got a little bit of credentials to get a good promotions and things, and we were able to get him 8 fights, no loss. Local, commercial. I mean, it was ready to be, the next Tucson big thing. And COVID came along, and then a job at Amazon.
What boxer was this? I was mentioning to you off mic, Chris Gonzalez. I think they called him El Güero.
Yeah, Chris Gonzalez.
Was that him that you're speaking about right now?
Yeah.
And so after COVID, what happened? He guided himself towards family, or checked out of the sport, or?
Well, once again, a female comes in the picture, right? And then after that, what happens is especially if you have a winning boxer, children show up because they don't find another way to celebrate, I guess. But when they win, there's always a kid pops out about 8 months later.
He was a young fighter. I believe when I had a chance to meet him, I think he was 21, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I think he was 7-0 at that time. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of promise behind him. But understandably, so it looks like family ended up guiding him away, and he took that route.
I'd say something else too. Let me just say that boxers, or anybody at any kind of level of success they're going to look a little bit, what they're doing. And if I win this, what's going to be next? If I do this, what are people going to expect from here on out? And if you get to a point with a boxer like maybe I think we did with Chris Gonzalez, is exceed even maybe his own expectation. I actually did the job and got him where he needed to be. And that next level that was going to come after that, we had a fight scheduled with that Elvis, I forget his last name right now, but there's the guy who was a big prospect. I identified him early as a flash in the pan, not really that good, and I wanted to fight him in the what do they call it when during COVID when they took everybody in the ESPN?
Like the bubble?
In the bubble,
yeah.
That's right. So we had a fight scheduled, which he canceled. The other boxer canceled. And so we didn't fight him then, but then when it came on that, okay, now they want to fight again, then Chris was just out of shape and had been working a job at Amazon and getting regular money to his family, and it was just too long, maybe a layoff for him, or it was that next level, kind of had that, well, if I beat this guy,
maybe a combination, yeah,
if they'd ask me, can we beat this guy, and if I told him then he would believe it, and they would. And I think he could have beat that guy, and he might have believed that he probably was gonna. And then what did that mean? Next thing you know, he's got he's off the next level, which is something that he said he wanted. But I mean, I feel like I could see sometimes that fear creeping in, where, hey, the fear of success, is going to be.
Here we go again, right? The psychology aspect of it, and it's great that you touched on that because it came back.
Psychological warfare, and to keep a person going in this, they either have to be very hungry and feeling like a deep need to fulfill something, you know, good or bad. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a positive or negative always, but it's just something that, you know, a heart of desire, you know, is going to bring somebody to a championship in boxing. And that's one of the hardest sports to medal in, you know, based on all the skill levels needed in all the different aspects of sport to get a gold medal in boxing. So, and a lot of, you know, politics and lucks and stuff. So, life is just to be at that level is a unique thing for human beings. But we over and over again, we can produce them, and we have them, and they show up in their sports, and they do what they do, and we love them for it. But I would say, I would throw in this sort of area of the conversation psychologically, that I sat in Puerto Rico with Nonito Donaire, his father, who's also his coach. And we were sitting there and we were drinking a couple of shots, you know, and we got to talking. And I had a son at the time, 8 years old, and his son was now a world champion. And I said, you know, do you mind if I ask you a question? What was it like for you and to raise your son to be a world champion? Just that was the question. And he was like, ruined the relationship with me and my son. Wow. And I was like, wow. I go, you know what, I'm not gonna, I was willing at the time to push my son into boxing and let him, you know, and not let him really think he was old enough to choose it or not, you know. But I backed off from that. And my son did box. He does still occasionally box, and he's great at it. But he wasn't interested in competing, and I'm so glad I didn't push him to that, because it could have ruined our relationship. So it takes willing hearts, you know, willing minds. Sometimes a little bit of a crazy mind or a confused mind in some ways, but it all is focused on the goal. So these people are not motivated in the way that we are. They're focused on goals.
And to that point that you're making, we've seen the dad-son combinations. There's a handful of them. Shane Mosley and his dad, Zab Judah and his dad, Tito Trinidad and his dad. And these are the ones that stand out. How many didn't make it because of that? Because relationships were just ruptured.
Roy Jones Jr., one of the best to ever do it. I'm just saying, best to ever do the skills and stuff, you know what I mean? Don't go at me with your list. But I'm just going to say, he was great. And his father was his coach, and they had an awful relationship.
Yeah.
You know, but whatever it takes, that's all I'm saying.
It woke you up. That conversation woke you up.
Yeah, it did. It did. And I really took it to heart, and I shared it with my son that it's your choice if you want to do this. Nobody should make the choice for someone else to get punched in the face and head and body and stuff for enjoyment of other people, enjoyment of themselves, or uplifting of sport, all the noble things that we do it for. It takes a pugilist in the heart.
Yeah.
You know, a heart is a pugilist is someone who entertains or does a trade or otherwise just pastime, boxes people with their hands on, glove fists. That's what we are. Yeah. And if you're that, then I welcome you here. If you're not that, I would say being around that and studying with it will give you more of an opportunity to have the right mindset if something comes up, maybe a self-defense situation or a situation where you just need to walk with better confidence. You know, boxing going to give you that. Because now that when I was a kid, I looked at everybody, sized them all up.
Yeah.
But now I just walk by people like I already know that the chances are I'll whip the shit out of them, and that there's going to be a big problem with that. So
it's everything after.
Yeah. Just let it. It's
not just the scuffle. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a good and generally if you walk with that type of confidence, nobody can bother you.
Right.
You know, you look like you belong among people that like to bother people, maybe.
So I'll take you back to how we started this conversation. We ended up guiding this towards a landscape, how it changed from when you first started getting involved, late 90s, 2000s, 2010s, And now it seems like as of the last couple years, it's a resurgence. And so I got to meet Coach Hector Reyes. He's got Joaquin Camberos. Coach Eric Woods, who you mentioned his dad earlier. He's got Jose Ramirez. And so I've been coach fighter Chris Gonzalez with Tucson Fitness, and he's got Kenny De La Rosa.
I love all those guys.
Yeah, and so I've been able to get these coaches and fighters, and so if I say Coach Brad Carlton, do you have a pro fighter that you're building up right now that you're
right now? I have Julio Munoz, but he's been having a tough time with his promotions, and stuff. So I'm not a manager. Okay, I don't manage the boxers. I'm a trainer. I'm a teacher. That's what I do, and I guide them. If they tell me, where they're fighting, I'm going to take them. I develop them, and I pick, hey, maybe we should fight this or the guy or that guy. But I'm not a manager, and so that's a tough part of the sport where I could probably, do better at, but. Sometimes you got to be careful out there with the managers or the promoters and people who are out there. If they offer you something and you want to do this shit, take it. If you don't take it, they're gonna stop calling you. You know, and looking for an easy fight is not a good thing to do.
There's one more coach that I missed on that list. Jake Wilson was one of the last ones that I met. He's got a young kid by the name of Solomon Okoronkwo, and I think he just won his recent fight last week.
He's been doing real well.
So that's the resurgence of what we're seeing right now.
Right.
Have you seen this happen?
My boxer goes over there and spars with them, and not only that, but they hooked him up with management. But it hasn't gone that way.
It hasn't panned out for him yet.
He's got one draw, which he should have won that fight, and he's got one that maybe he should have drawn, that he lost. And so he's 1-1, and he's just a tough kid. It really shouldn't be that, but I didn't pick these guys. I didn't agree with them. I didn't know, they didn't tell me enough, but I'm just here to help him try to win, if that's what he wanted to do.
With your experience and the amount of exposure that you've had within the sport of boxing, do you normally start developing and guiding, coaching the fighters, and then you get to a point where you're like, all right, I need to check out and just go focus on my gym? Or do you foresee, is that still a challenge of yours, to take them all the way to the top and see if you could get with the fighter, coach and fighter from beginning to end?
That's a tough question, because I have a big heart for the boxers that I have, but ultimately you have to realize with this relationship that Roger Woods told me a long time ago, I don't need them. They need my help, they need my help. So I don't chase boxers, I don't follow them. If they want to go somewhere else, they go. And I don't complain. And I find that to be the best way to ever deal with the issue of the sport has this under, in the coach boxing relationship through it all, where you train a guy up and then somebody else, if he's really good, takes him away. And boxer, we talk about loyalty and things like that with coaches, but I married my wife, you know what I mean? I'm not married to no boxers, and I'm not married. They don't have to do anything unless they're under some form of contract, then that's just business. Yeah. So it's like, as far as relationship-wise, I had a boxer, Alfonso Olvera, who was 54-4 as an amateur with me in 3.5 years, starting at age 21, never boxed. And we went up the nationals 5 times, and he always came real close to winning. Those are the only times he lost. Never lost in Arizona. Super outstanding boxer. Turns pro, wins for the first fight with me in El Paso against another prospect that they didn't want them to fight. But I said, well, I think we can fight this guy. And we did it, and we won. And then the next fight was against Ivan Berenchik.
Yeah.
And in New York on Thanksgiving weekend, in the BB King, in Manhattan or whatever.
Tough fight to start your career again.
I go, what are you doing that? I go, you just fought. You just won. You're good. One, fight, one knockout, won by knockout. And he goes, well, this guy's same thing. And I looked him up. No, he's got 4 wins, 4 knockouts. And he's been silver medalist in World Games, and all this stuff. I go, no, this is not a good fight.
It's a different pedigree. And then he went on to fight Josh Taylor, and Josh Taylor ends up becoming the undisputed at 140 down the line.
But he decided he wanted to get money for Christmas. So we flew on the busiest weekend for the airport. and lost our luggage, because everything that happened, I told them is going to happen.
Oh, man.
I said, they're going to lose our luggage, they're going to starve you out, they're not bringing you there to win that guy. I go, just forget about that one, let's just do something else. And he decided, though, he was going to do it. And so because I like my friend, and we never argued about any of it, he always listened to me. But this one time he decided, I said, well, okay, maybe, it's not my decision. I'll help him.
Commendable in a way, because maybe it comes across like it was a little bit of a desperate move, but he also took a gamble on himself.
Yeah, he took a gamble. So I said,
can't knock on him for that.
All right, my job is to help him win that gamble. And so we went up there, and everything I said was going to happen happened. They lost our luggage. We didn't get our weight making kit till an hour before weigh-ins and all this stuff. And we make it and we get it all done. But they run him around town all day and night, just like I said. And to wear him out, they could have took him first, and they know it. So anyways, so watch out for that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And so we're on the shuttle van going over the Brooklyn Bridge. All right, headed to the BB King, where he's going to fight this prospect. And I'm thinking, my guy's a prospect too. And here we are, and I said it out loud, which kind of offended some of the people on the shuttle. I was like, look, Alfonso, look what you did. I go, if you're on the bus with your coach right now, you're going to get knocked out tonight. That's what they want. You're going to give all you guys out here. And they're like, oh, what? I was like, no, you know what it is. And you guys are on this shuttle. You're supposed to lose tonight. And my guy is not supposed to lose tonight. He's a prospect. And we're on the wrong freaking shuttle bus. And it just felt that way. And he ended up, it was a very close fight, even though he got knocked down for the first time ever in the fight, because the guy's a super power punching guy. He cracked him and he went down. And
how many fights did you stay together with Olvera?
Professionally, those two. Because after that, we went back home. Well, that didn't bother. I mean, we weren't happy with the result, but we were dealt with it. We were fine. We're still great friends. But he decided that he was gonna leave. Hey, can we take a sec?
Yeah, definitely.
Hey guys.
All right, we're right back with Coach Brad Carlton, and we just left off where you and Alfonso are in New York. The loss happens. The separation happens between you and Alfonso. You guys decided to go separate ways.
Well, it kind of went down like this. That he'd usually take a couple weeks off, after a fight and stuff, and that was okay most of the time. And I expect him to come back, but he came back on about the same time as usual. But he tells me he needs to talk to me, and we go outside, and he cries for like 3 hours. I love him. He cries for like 3 hours, explaining to me he's gonna go train with another trainer. And I the same way I am now, I just said, I don't, I'm telling you, I think it's a mistake. That's my opinion only. That's all I have is my opinion of that. So I hope it worked out for him, it would work out for him. I didn't have one issue with trying to say, hey, you have to stay with me and loyalty and all this stuff. It's just, I told them years ago, the first year we started wasn't even that many, but the first year I told him, if you're that good, that one day you're gonna go with someone else. And he told me, oh, never. And I told him, we'll see, and it's okay.
Were you guys together the majority of the amateur
whole time?
The whole amateur
run? The coach he went to actually told him, you'll never be I'm never going to train you, and you're not going to be part of the boxing program, but you can train at my gym. Your potential is nothing. That's because he was 21 years old, and he's skinny. I don't know, he's over there in the picture, but I brought him in. He came to my gym and asked me, could he train there? And after the first time I had him sparring, I said, sure, man, he's going to be good. And I think the first month we went and won his first match, and then we never lost. We won every fight for like 22 fights, and lost at the National Golden Gloves to Michael. His name, man. But he's a top pro, even now. I'm forgetting his name right now, but maybe I'll remember. But he fought a lot of great fights. Only lost to great people who went on to win it.
Yeah.
And we never lost in Arizona or any other place except at the National competitions where it was
So you guys
sometimes
running
political,
into-
obviously. But
I cut you off. Say it again. I was cutting you off because I was saying something as you were saying.
I'm sorry,
saying
but it was political, obviously.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But also there were times when he got, it just fell into a hair short, but he was great. And we were always laughing, smiling. People were very off put sometimes by how good natured we always were together out fighting. And it just was, he was so listened to me that I could make up for his lack of experience, make up for, but he had the ability to just do what I told him.
He has a good communication.
Yeah,
between
yeah.
you guys.
Even though he, English is not his first language and probably not much of a second language for the first, couple of years. But we got, I speak a little Spanglish.
So the competition that he started facing was high pedigree competition that went on to do something
First
in
year.
the pros.
Yeah, well, like he fought Gary Russell Jr. Now 5. He fought a lot of good fighters, but anyways, he always listened to me. And the one time he didn't want to listen, I would say that's when things went a little wrong. But at the same time, who knows? You know what I mean? I always just think, how it's going to turn out. We don't really know. You think something's good happened, in career or life, and you might have to go, well, let's just see how it turns out. Because then if you see something bad happen, you might do the same thing. Hey, see how it turns out. You break your leg, or something, and then all of a sudden they come looking for guys to go fight, in the war.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go, maybe it was a good thing you broke your leg. You can't go.
So the business aspect of boxing seems to be what most young aspiring boxers don't even consider. They see the glitz, the glamour, the potential money that could come, the belts, but then the business aspect of it gets pretty ugly.
Yeah.
It has its ugly sides that it shows.
It's honestly it's a big turnoff, for a lot of people and you got to be really shark like, to really swim in the pool at a certain levels and stuff. And there's no way. The way you get into it is by just being good. You got to be good at the sport. And besides it, and you have to have some people who can recognize that good and then foster it. No matter what you're a coach, if you're a aspiring boxer, the right things have to come together for you. And I would say it like this: that one time we were at Nationals and we lost, and somebody was watching the whole kind of tournament, watching us for some reason. I took interest, and this man saw us and he said. And he saw that I pray for the boxer to recognize himself and to just accept whatever they do because they may or may not do the right thing. We got robbed the year before, and we were like, if they say the wrong thing, we're not going to let it break our hearts because we know what's good and what's not. And then we went out and I gave good instructions. We won the match 100%. And again, boom, political. Obviously, he did not get to go on in the tournament. And afterwards, we got together and I said, hey, remember I told you that you do the right thing, what they do is on them. And so we settled that kind of, and it was a sad thing, and I went and cried by myself, but nobody was in public display of disappointment to shake hands and let's leave, but the next day we weren't boxing, so we're at the tournament, and this man that I'm talking about approached me, and he's older guy, black guy, he's got real thick glasses like that, and he walks up and he goes, hey, I saw you coaching this guy, and man, he should have won that fight, and it's, it should be a big controversy, but it's not. He goes, let me show you something. I want to take a picture with you. You're such a great coach, he tells me. And he pulls out of his pocket and opens up this little case, and it's a 1972 or 76 or something Olympic gold medal for boxing, middleweight. And the man's name is Sugar Ray Seals. Okay, and he's been on a poster in my gym forever. I didn't even know at the time that's who was in the poster. But he tells me, he's like, see this gold medal? He goes, you take that gold medal and I want you to put it on your neck and take a picture with me. And I was like, no, I don't want to I didn't earn that gold medal. Why would I put a gold medal on my neck? It's yours. And he got actually aggravated a little bit. And he said, because you don't understand that I seen what you did and what your boxer did, and that gold medal should belong on someone's neck. like you got, like you're doing. Your boxer, you're probably never going to get one. I'm just going to say it. Because it doesn't matter how good you did, doesn't matter how good your boxer is, there's other things at play that happen, and you got luck included. The time you should have went wrong and it went right. The time should have went right. Whatever happened.
Yeah. And
I got to get a gold medal.
Yeah.
He goes, but there were so many other people I've seen deserve gold medal, did better or did something that I did to get one and didn't get it. So it's just the reality of
a multitude of factors that go into it that people don't consider.
Elite anything. Just trying to think of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're Tiger Woods, if you're, this is elite sport.
Yeah.
And some people just, they like to put their gloves on and everything, and it's great. But the professional boxing is a hurt business, and it's not something you just want to dabble in. Really, you want to have credentials as a fighter. Get yourself some attention to you for doing good stuff. Winning tournaments, big national tournaments, big tournaments, and that's the way you got to approach it. Otherwise, you just chop liver.
So, Coach, perfect segue, right? With the business aspect and the business talk of it, let's segue into Versamitts, and then we're going to close this out because I know this is your passion, right? Versamitts is your creation. You ended up basically innovating and renovating an existing piece of gear, which is a traditional mitt. Talk to me about Versamitts. Where did the inspiration come from, and how has it gone since the creation? I think it's 6 years deep now, maybe?
About 6 years.
And how has that gone? Because it's gone from Boog Harris over with Tank Davis utilizing this gear to Keyshawn Davis, MMA-wise, James Vick, Thug Rose, Namayunas, RGBA in California with Mikey Garcia. And so we've seen it do the rounds.
All over the world,
Buddy
actually.
McGirt, right, with Sergey Kovalev and Jonibek. So this gear has been utilized, and it continues to get utilized. Talk to me real briefly about that, and we'll put a good close to this because this is your baby right here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love it because of what it reveals to us about the angles, about the truth of what's happening in a boxing ring, which when the first time I started doing mitts, when I started many years ago, first time I used them, I go, and I caught a couple combinations that I wanted to do. I said, well, wasn't long before I said, I wish I had another side on here, because mainly I had to learn from a coach a couple combinations that were, one was a stop jab, 2-3-2, he called it, and it was, the coach is Gil Martinez. He's in, I think in Nevada now. Gil Martinez is a great coach, a famous coach, and he's done a great job over his career. But I saw him teaching this to his son, where he'll slip the jab and throw a jab to the body to kind of freeze him up, and then come over the top with the right hand. And I like that, but I didn't like that I would have my hand like this and they would hit the back of my hand. I had boxers who could punch hard, And another combination he had was a jab hook combination to get around the to the right when you're facing the other guy, get away from his right hand or whatever. And it was just throw a hook to kind of get him to put his hand up there instead of throw it at you.
And the punch is coming.
So I would ask him, give me a jab and then a hook and move over for a cross, from over there. And everybody would just whack my hand all like they just want 1, 2, 3 or something.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I wish they could get it, that I really want that as a diversionary thing. And I just kind of the way my mind was thinking that I was dissatisfied.
Yeah.
And I said, one day, I go, why don't they have a pad on the other side? If that would help me a lot, do a lot of things more accurately. And I realized that going like this was hurting my elbows, my shoulders, and was inaccurate. Not. And boxing mitts are muscle memory as trainers and coaches. We want to show them, do it like this, and a lot of times you're going to have success if you run it this way. So it's just a better way for me to run plays that I like my boxers to do. Combinations lead to body shots and whatnot. And once again, it was inaccurate, what we were doing, because if you hold the mitt like that, it's not on the trajectory we need. So when I put the pad on the other side, I could lay it on my body and they could hit the exact angle of the liver shot. Hit me right on the solar plexus. But it didn't happen perfect right away. I always had the idea. It took about, I'd say almost 17, 18 years or so to decide, You know, when one of my buddies came in and said, hey, you wanted some custom mitts one day, you said, now I'm making them, so you want me to make you anything? I said, yeah, take this old mitt and put a pad on the other side of it. He's like, huh? I go, yeah, you know, put a pad on the other side. And he did, and it was just a regular mitt, and he put a little pad on there. I have it right over here, but I put it on my body, and we hit it. I still felt it go through my hand. And
is that the dark blue stuff that you have up top? I'll grab it for you.
Hey, look, no, well, this is
the original one.
I'll show you the original. I'll show you the evolution real fast. So the guy, you know, I give him his credit. His name is Luis Gonzalez. He's from Phoenix. He does all kinds of stuff now for a whole bunch of people, professional boxing equipment and all, but mainly now attire. But he was new at doing this stuff, and he wanted to talk to me about it. And I had him make this, and that's what he came up with. Concept? He came back, he came back with this, and I put it on my hand, and I said, that's what I want. But then when they hit it hit this kind of hard, you know, and then it hit my hand, and then it hit here, and that's kind of hard. So it kind of, you know, my body's tough, you know, so I was like, I could take that, but I don't think other coaches are going to want to take the transfer of the shot to the body. So I had to think about it for about 5 minutes.
And that would eliminate the bodyguard, right?
Yeah.
Using the Versamitts eliminates. You use less gear, even though it's a little bit bulkier than the traditional mitt, but now you got less gear on you.
I don't have to wear the big stinky pad.
So the trainer becomes a lot more mobile as well.
Right. But then I made a way though for it to work, where I had the divot on the outside and a way on the inside for it to absorb the shot and send it into a cushion of air to send it into the mitt and kind of poof it out while it's hitting you. So
you leave a gap in between so that air compression.
And it goes poof, and I can put it directly on my solar plexus. I can put it right on my liver and have them hit with the proper trajectory, which is straight through, you know. And so it really, right away, it did what I wanted it to do, and right away I was fortunate to figure out the technology to make it actually work, that people would accept using it. And then I made, he came back with this one here, which I debuted, I think, when that day Henry Cejudo maybe was there or something, and maybe debuted in Phoenix. But I had this one, and it just wasn't, you know, he goes, you know, this, you know, maybe above my pay grade a little bit, you know, like, and he turned me on to a great mitt maker. You know, he's very, very famous for making mitts.
Triple champ, triple C.
Yeah, he's funny. He's a funny guy, I have to say, but a great guy. But then I went to Sergio. Okay, and Sergio, he made these. He's the guy who makes all the mitts for Freddie Roach. Okay. All those little mitts and the body shields and stuff. And he made this one. And this was the first one. And the first one who ever got one was actually coach for John Jones.
Really?
In New Mexico.
Jackson Wink over there in Albuquerque?
Yeah. Okay. He got this. He got one like this. And that was a cool thing.
More like a tie pad, right?
Yeah. Well, this one, actually, at the time it wasn't, but that's something I'm doing, you know, one of the next projects is to make it into a tie pad.
Nice.
Which is
I like the fact that fantastic. You have the targets, because it gives a visual to where they should be landing the punch.
Yeah.
Right? And
for sure.
So that's really cool.
When you see the two dots, that's the trajectory of the shot. And when they punch here, that's where the angle of the shot is, you know, and even so that I would say almost expose the nonsense that we have been doing, and they added much more. But one of the nonsenses I would say is catching hooks over here like this. It's not so, it's just like one, you know, or 1, 2, and I put it here a lot of times for the hook to come right in the gap. Or if I want to, you know, if I want it to go to the liver or the short rib. You know, wherever I want it to actually go, or where it should go, not where we're kind of faking it to catch. And it's really what it is. As a matter of fact, I'll reveal an last embarrassing moment.
Is this one the latest concept? Is this the most recent?
Yeah, this was.
Or these are all the original concepts?
Yeah, these are some Garibay, but this is where it is basically right now. but people like it like this. But I have other ways I want to do it. It's a little bit challenging sometimes working with factories that are in Pakistan and stuff like that internationally. A little difficult to get them to.
So the interesting thing with that is the renovation of the mitt, right? Your innovation of it, and it's basically allowing the combinations to follow through. The boxer could follow through instead of holding back on that final punch, right?
Well,
they'll do the 1-2, and then the 3
sure.
they have to hold back because.
For sure, but at the same time, you don't have to kill your coach. The
Right.
thing you have to do to knock people out, the thing you have to do to be good at this sport is have the muscle memories and things where you practice to practice perfectly.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a fan of saying practice makes perfect, not because it doesn't. It's like perfect practice make perfect. If I find out what the standard is and I achieve that over and over and automatically because of my practice, then I'd say your practice is doing good. But if you practice any old thing, you're just gonna be just practice it, whatever the hell you made up, or I don't know.
You could be practicing the wrong thing the whole time and never know.
I know there's no sense in doing this.
Yeah.
And so not only do I agree with that, but so did the patent company, which I have a U.S. patent for the product that makes claims, and then the claims are met by inspectors that tell you that you've created something that is new and useful for your area of business. And it's just something that I wanted to share.
Have you encountered many what do they call it, like under the table, like makeshift versions of Versamitts? Anybody else trying to take your? You own the patent.
I do.
So this is yours.
I do.
Have you
I
noticed,
don't want
like,
to discourage anybody of that process because your intellectual property is super important to protect and everything, but there's really no protecting something that's a good idea. I mean, I'm just going to say, if there's more other people that make more money from it than I do because they're already established clientele and things and stuff, so they've done it, and I catch them from time to time, and I hit them on social media and tell them, hey. And then a lot of people who I have famous coaches all over the world that have been using them and know I created it and that it belongs to me, and they'll sometimes get on there and they'll clown some people out that are trying to steal from me. But honestly, imitation though is the highest form of flattery sometimes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know that I've done something
It's a good way to
for
see
boxing
it.
and not only do I say it, but some of the best coaches in the game now, like you mentioned earlier, Javante Davis, his coaches, all of them have custom
from Book
pairs.
Harris to Buddy McGirt that I saw, James Vick over RGBA.
Why they don't use them more publicly, I'm not sure.
I mean, locally here, you have videos that where you're using them with Oscar, right? Oscar Valdez.
And maybe I'm not the best at promoting my stuff on social media, but I'm really just here serving people, that come in my gym, and I love doing that, and I have a lot of other ideas. Once it gets through good enough, maybe I'll do some of these other ideas that
Overall, it's been good reception for Versamitts.
It's what you call one of those no-brainers. You know what I mean?
Like we should have had this sooner type thing.
Right. Like why didn't we have that before? I mean, it just makes too much sense. And I was showing, I was at the Las Vegas Convention Center showing Derek James the mitts with, at the time it was with Errol Spence Jr. And they were looking at it, and I was telling them, hey, we're doing this wrong. He's like, the hell you say, I said, yeah, we're doing it wrong. We're teaching them wrong. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, well, look. I go, this right here isn't right, but that's right. He's like, they're looking at it, and then all of a sudden, he, what's his name, punches it, with his hand. Not Derek, but...
Errol?
Errol, yeah.
Errol.
He punches it like that, half-handed little punch. I got it all on tape, though, but I don't put it out there. Not to embarrass him or me, but he hits it like that with a little half-assed little poke at it. I said, no, hit it. And he goes, I put it on my body like this. And I've been telling them that we're teaching people to miss, right?
Yeah.
By doing this. And I go over there and I tell him, good, no, hit it. And he's like, so he kind of half-assed again hits. I go, no, hit the motherfucker. And he goes, lines up a big uppercut, whap, right under my chin. It goes right by the pad, hits me right under the chin. Head goes up there and just snap here through the whole building.
What?
And
completely missed the
and I
pad.
looked at him and I just smiled. I go, I told you. I told you.
Wow.
You're doing it wrong. And they were like, whoa. Because first of all, I took the shot like a champ.
Yeah.
Bare knuckle right there. And then for 2 weeks, I felt a couple little little sore spot right there, but I was getting ready for a competition of my own, and my neck was stretched good, so I took the shot, and it's a great video, but nobody ever sees it, you know. And it's kind of a little bit embarrassing maybe for both of us, you know, but this is my point, that we were doing it wrong. And anyone who wanted to argue,
yeah, because the placement was off.
Right.
The placement was off.
Yeah, totally. I mean, just used to this, and it was wrong. I go, how many times? And as soon as I started doing it with my boxers, I started to get a lot more liver shot knockouts. Everybody, even my Muay Thai fighters, got more accurate in placing their shots and putting shots where they're meaningful. You know, it's really important, more than just scoring areas all the time. But if you really want to do this right, you know, you got to get people out of there, and that's touching them in the specific places, you know, which are buttons, you know, and if we can't get to them, you know, or it takes years to try to find out where am I supposed to throw that, you know, it could get harder. But with that, I find it easy, and it shows angles. It just revealed so much, kind of like adding an extra suit to a deck of cards. Now it's exponentially more things that a coach who's creative and knows their art and craft to use them properly. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate all you coaches that have them, and all around the world, everywhere but Antarctica, which I had a weatherman up there, maybe send him a pair, you know, I don't know why he's there, it's cold. But but if he wants a pair, he can have them. I can be on all continents.
He'll warm up.
Yeah, and warm up. Yeah, you can practice, and it's just a great thing, and I'm blessed for this inspiration, you know, to happen, you know, and I give a lot of credit to those two combinations I wanted to fix, and to Gil Martinez, and I took him the first pair I made that were decent to show him, and I said, look what you helped inspire me to do. And he's grateful for that. We just ran into each other recently. It's awesome. So it's
commendable, and congratulations, because it's a great idea that you came up with. It is something,
man. You know, it's something, and I could capitalize more, but I'm just a coach right here. You know, and I love my boxers. I love serving my community. I've been invited to coach, and I won't say where, you know, just you know, but I've been invited, and I said no, thank you, because you do what you do where you do it, and I do it where I do it. Yeah. And I'm not really a.
You want me to spoil it for you? I think it's Freddie Roach.
It could be, but I love him. You know, he's very nice. Greeted me very nice and all that. But it could be him. I mean, but let's just say it's a big market, you know, and I'm somewhere I'm supposed to be in. I think it's right here. You know, when that special boxer comes by, we'll do it. If they don't, I'll have sent a lot of people out of here with a lot more confidence, a lot better feeling about themselves and their self-defense. You know, their self-image, you know, and stuff is powerful through boxing. You know, even the people who are never going to be fighters, you got people. If you look at them and go, "I'm never going to be a fighter," you know, forget that guy. It's sad because everybody's a fighter, you know, who wants to look at this, you know, and try it. And even if they're old or they're elderly or whatever, boxing make everybody more empowered, for sure. Even
definitely
at the
makes them better,
lowest level of knowledge, it really does. So I love boxing, and I love the boxing community, and thank you guys out there
thank
for
you so
listening.
Much, and I think we'll
bothered to listen to this.
No, absolutely. I think it's been a pleasure, and we'll close off with this. MTK, without diving into the long story, the controversy, you were the first U.S. gym that got approached to become MTK. You still have that logo of MTK up there. They're no longer in business. Mm-hmm. It's fair to say that we're going back to Neutral Corner Gym. You want to make the announcement here? Yeah, that's my original brand, and I'm very proud to be. And it just so happened that at a certain time, and it's been a staple of the Tucson boxing scene.
Right, it's been, I think I'm on like my 17th year. Yeah. Something like that. And my goal is to be 20 years on 22nd Street. And I'll probably surpass it by a lot, but, you know, at least I stayed in business all this time. But at the time, when they contacted me, they just, out of the blue, I heard of them as a promotion company, you know, European guys and stuff, like Tyson Fury, they were managing at the time. Yeah. And they called me and said, hey, we heard about you, and we want to do this in America, and we want you to be the first. And I thought that was pretty cool, you know, and everything. And I checked them out, and we negotiated it out, and it looked like we started it and did it. And I just moved to a new location. And I got the sign. Okay, it says the new business, right? And I was really proud of my old sign, you know, and my old
At that time,
name.
I'm sure there was a lot of promise, right? And they
Yeah,
had
for
at
sure.
one point
said,
they had 200 fighters.
and they said that their idea was to send me people that they heard of that were talented or whatever, to have me work with them here, and they could set up places here, send people from Europe, whatever, to get into the market here, or to get prospects from here to go with them. So I was like, that's about kind of what I'd rather do than, you know, sometimes than what I'm always doing. You know, I mean, I could maybe try that, and I can do what I do with you know, keeping the business going otherwise on the side. And so it sounded like a good little farm program, you know. Turned out maybe it was a little more like just a franchise fitness gym idea, but it didn't. We never talked about it that way. Talked about it the way I just said, but COVID hit, and it all fell apart over that because first of all we had different rules as to, you know, how we could behave during that time, which is pretty restrictive for all of us. So I barely survived that because I just moved to this location right at that time, and they shut me down. So I had, and the very tragic things happened, you know, with that. But it wasn't, you know, it's a bad thing for boxing and for everybody. So we all went through that, and you know, and then I find out there's a little bit more to the story. More to the story as to who these people are, and they were great people. I'm nothing against any of them. I didn't meet any bad people. I didn't meet anybody who seemed off in any way. Really, they just came and they very businesslike, and we did what we were doing together, and then we amicably, you know, we had to disband it a little bit, you know, but I'm keeping the name because I paid a lot for the sign. It's going back to Neutral Corner though.
Good, that's good to hear. And business venture that came and went, never materialized. Let's get back to business, right? To how it started. And just a tidbit, I didn't know this, and doing research with your gym, I found out that the Kronk gym was here in the 90s.
Yeah,
you
didn't know that?
I didn't know that, and so I was educating myself with that leading into this interview.
That's
and I'm like, Emmanuel Stewart was out here with Gerald McClellan, with Wilfred Benitez, you know, and it lasted about 2 years. And it's great. It reminded me of this because they were here 96, 98. They had a lot of fighters that came through the Tucson area.
Something fishy kind of happened with that too. I'm not 100%.
I wasn't able to
so I'm not
much.
going to say any rumor type shit. But something kind of crazy happened with that, and it was kind of gone a little bit as I showed up. But I knew people who were involved in stuff that, and that was a cool thing to have around, you know, for sure. And there was, you said, a lot of great people coming through, you know.
So, Coach, I'll close out with this. It's been a pleasure meeting one of the long-standing staples in the boxing community here in Tucson. Coach, entrepreneur, businessman, family man, inventor. So it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And the boxing scene here in Tucson seems to be at a good spot right now.
I'm happy.
I wish you nothing but the best, and you have an up-and-coming boxer that you're trying to guide as well. Let's hope his career materializes and that he gets back on track. And I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much for.
Anybody wants to check it out, you know, come see.
How do they find you?
When I got to think about it, they can show up here. That's what they can do. Because
give them your address.
I have social media. I have Versamitts, social media, Instagram, Facebook. I have MTK Tucson Neutral Corner Gym, Facebooks, and all that stuff. So you can contact me through social media.
This is considered
a message is the best way.
Eastside Tucson?
Yep.
Eastside Tucson?
Eastside Tucson.
Off Montana Road?
Yep. Staple, you know, like.